So today I'm going to go over some of the overland camping type gear that I think are well worth the money that you spend for it. The things I'm going to talk about today are kind of mid to more expensive. They're not on the cheaper end, but definitely I feel like they're worth it. So the first thing I thought I'd talk about, which I've talked about in other videos, is my fridge. And the one I have is an ARB fridge. And they can be used as a freezer if you turn them down cold enough, or you can use them just as a fridge. They do have some out there, you have a compartment where you can do a fridge and a freezer. But when I switched from coolers to this, what a difference. I mean, definitely a game changer. Don't have to worry about the ice melting. Don't have to worry about all my food and everything getting, wet. And I keep this in the Jeep all the time. And if I'm going somewhere like I left earlier, I just flip the fridge on, have water in there, and keeps it cold and have something to drink. And I don't have to go buy ice or anything like that. Or listen to it slosh around back here. So anyway, fridge is definitely, I think, a real game changer. I use it all the time. In the past, the last couple years, actually I bought this, I think it was in 2019, I've been using it ever since. But some of those, I guess the last several years, up to this year, I would actually carry a cooler with just water and stuff in. But I haven't even been carrying that this year. I just make sure I have enough water in here, and once I start getting down low, I throw some more water in it. It just don't have to have that extra space for the cooler and keep the ice in there and stuff. But definitely game changer. This was a good investment, and they're not cheap. There's different brands. I'm sure some of them are cheaper than this one, and then some are probably more money than this one. But this one's worked well for me. I've had no problems with it. So my other Jeep, if you've seen any of my other videos, I've got a 2023 Jeep 392 JL Rubicon, and in fact it's partially built. It's actually a long ways in the build. We're just waiting for a couple things and then kind of wrap that up. But I will probably not right away, but I will probably buy another one. And I don't know if it'll be this brand or if I'll probably try a different brand and put it in that one. And then when we go on longer trips, I could use one as a fridge and one as a freezer if I wanted to. But the last several camping trips and some of the videos I've done, when I've taken that, I think there's only been maybe one time that I've taken it without this Jeep. If we take both Jeeps, fridge stays in here. If I take that one without this Jeep, I'll pull this out and stick it in the back, and works great. But anyway, really like this. I think it's definitely worth the money. Honestly, once you start getting into the nicer coolers, you're a good chunk of your way to buying one of these. And honestly, there's probably some other ones that probably aren't that much different than some of the expensive coolers like the Yetis. I mean, I've got some of those expensive ones, but anyway, so that's one of the things I think is well worth it. All right, so the next thing I think is well worth the money is the Garmin Mini, the InReach Mini. I've mentioned this in other videos as well, but I think if you're doing this kind of stuff, this is like well worth the money. It's something that really you should have. Especially anytime, but especially if you're going by yourself or one vehicle or whatever. But that kind of why I bought it, because I go by myself quite a bit. But even if you're with other people, it's nice to have one in case something major happens. This works really well because you sync it to your phone, and you just text on your phone, and then you send it, and it sends it through this unit satellite, through the satellite, and it works well. I've used it quite a bit actually, especially in the summertime when we're camping. Like if I go up early and some of my family is going to come up later, I can text them, tell them kind of where we're at, where the campground is that we found. And it's just peace of mind that if something happens, you can, if the Jeep breaks down or something happens, you can communicate back to friends or family and let them know that you need some help. And so this is definitely, I don't know, it's well worth the money. The other thing is if you have a major major problem, I mean a bad accident, it has an SOS feature where you just pop this side deal open and you push that button and it sends satellite to, or sends, you know, an SOS through satellite to get help. And I think it, you know, I'm not positive on that, but I would guess it probably sends your GPS coordinates there. I do know I have mine set up so when I text, it'll put the coordinates of where I'm at too. So if something does happen, all I have to do is just get a message out and it'll put the coordinates where I'm at. One of the other things you can do, and I've done it before, is you can go online to your account, send an email or send an email to somebody else's email, and then you can do a tracking, and it'll track where you're going, and they can get on their computer and get on that email that you sent them and pull up that thing or that page, and it has the map and shows you where you're at, which is, I don't know, I think that's pretty cool. So anyway, I definitely think that this is well worth the money. And if I remember right, I can't remember exactly what the price, probably around $350. And then the monthly subscription, you can get different ones. During the summer, I run the one that's around 20 to 30 bucks. I can't remember exactly what it is. When I'm not, wintertime, when I'm not using it as much, I'll move it to, although I'm getting more and more where I'm using it in the winter too, but if you're not using a lot, you can move it down to like, I think it's around $15 a month. And then there's packages more than that. So, but anyway, definitely worth the money. All right, so the next thing I think is worth having, it's worth paying, you know, a little bit for, is some type of a charging station, I guess, a battery or whatever. I have a couple different setups. When I'm just going in my Jeep, I use this Jackery, and this isn't a big one. I think it's a 300, yeah, 300, Explorer 300. But when I'm just going on my Jeep, I just need something to charge my camera gear and some of that stuff like that. So far, it's worked great. When I go on my Turtleback, of course, it's got a whole system in that. I got a couple big batteries that are hooked through inverters and all that kinds of stuff. And then, so in the front of it, you have the batteries and some of that stuff that makes that all work. And then in one of the side compartments, you drop the door down, and then you've got, you know, your power on and off, your switches to turn your pump on, and all that kinds of stuff like that. And you got outlets on the trailer and there that you can plug in your phones or cameras. It's got like a plug-in like you would have in a house in the front of it. You know, so you got all the different ways to be able to plug into it and charge your stuff. But I think it's definitely nice to have that, just to be able to charge up stuff. And I don't know, this has worked good for me. I've pretty much only, well, actually I've taken it when we've taken the Turtleback too and used it at times, but definitely really nice when I am just in the Jeep. I can plug in phones at night or camera gear or whatever. So definitely worth the money. All right, next one. So this is another thing I think is worth it, worth having. I use this all the time, especially in the summertime or anytime we go to the mountains. I use it all the time. I use it to cut firewood, you know, for the campfire. I use it for, well, sometimes you going into place, you have to cut your trees to get in there. And there's been times when I'm coming out and couldn't get back out because trees have fallen down and had to cut my way back out. So a chainsaw, super nice, super convenient. And it doesn't have to be a gas one. There's battery ones that are really good. This is what I've had. I've actually got several chainsaws because I've burned firewood forever for heating the house. This is my smallest one. So I bought this one kind of carrying the Jeep, and if I go on my dirt bike, I can, you know, we can stick them on that too. I do have another one. It's just a little bit bigger. This that I take in the Jeep some of the time. But this one's just a little more compact, fits in a little easier. So it just kind of depends on how much room I have. But most of the time lately, I've been taking this one. I think this is something that definitely worth the money, especially if you spend much time in the mountains, around trees and trails. You know, you get in the desert so much and maybe not as big a deal there, but for a lot of the stuff I do, well worth the money. So next item, a diesel heater. So this is, I didn't get this till, I think it was January, February, I think it was February. And so I have had a chance to use it a little bit. But for winter camping, whether during the winter or when it's definitely cold, this is definitely a game changer. So I went camping. I didn't go a bunch this last winter, but a little bit. I took a buddy heater before I got this, and that's nice. You can heat the tent up, but I don't run them all. I won't run them all night, so I'll turn it off when I go to sleep, and then turn it on when I get up in the morning, just to kind of warm things up, so you can get up and get dressed and get going. But when we bought this, we went down, camped, and let it run all night. It kind of kept, I think it was on low. We actually had to open the windows up a little bit just to let the air, otherwise it's too hot. And it was cold, but it wasn't like, it was in the teens, lower teens, and it was windy, but game changer. I mean, what a game changer. I mean, it made it completely different than before, because you stayed warm all night, got up in the morning. In fact, we got up in the morning and it was kind of windy, and we kind of hung out in there for a little bit, and then climbed down out. It was like, wow, with that wind, it was super cold outside. So I mean, you can get some cheaper ones than this. This one's fairly expensive, but I wanted something kind of like this. It's got everything just in a compact deal. It's got a diesel tank, tank on the back here, and I can set it up on the Jeep or somewhere on the turtleback and run the hose up in there, and it just works. I don't know. It works really, really well. So it's worth the money. This next winter, I'm looking forward to, well, I'm not looking forward to it, but when winter gets here, I'm looking forward to being able to use this and be able to go out more often than I did in the past, and be able to be comfortable. So, like I said, this one's fairly expensive, but I think they're definitely worth the money if you're going to be able to, if you want to go out and camp much out in the cold weather. So anyway, definitely worth it. All right, the last thing I'm going to talk about is a fire pit. This is the one I have. It is a, pop-up pit, Fireside Outdoors. But anyway, this is the one I've got. It works really well. My brother actually bought one of these before I did, and we used it ice fishing, out fishing on the ice. Brought some wood and set it down and put our wood on there and had a fire. Sat around the fire while we were watching for fish to bite. So anyway, I like this. They're really convenient. I mean, sometimes you don't always have a fire pit, so then you can throw this up there and use it. And then in the winter camping, you got snow everywhere. It's just easier to just kind of put this there and start a fire, and you can sit around it and have a nice warm fire. But so I think this is something that's, I don't take it with me all the time, but certain times of the year I do. But this is definitely worth the money. And this one actually, if I remember right, I've had it for a little bit. But if I remember right, it's not terribly expensive. But the other thing I'm thinking about trying is like a propane fire pit, or fire pit, I guess. Just for the times when you can't have a fire, there's burn bans. And then in the wintertime, one thing I've kind of run into is, if you're in the mountains, you can probably find some, dry enough wood to burn. But if you're in the desert, you got to take a lot of firewood with you. So if I had a propane one, I just have to carry a bottle of propane and the fire pit or whatever it is, and you got fire, or you got a place to sit around and enjoy the evening with a little bit of warmth. And so that's something I'll probably gonna try. I don't know if I'll get it probably before winter anyway. And depending on the burn bans this year, I may buy one just so I can have something like that to try then. But I think either way, one of these is a pretty good investment, or it's worth the money. Granted, I haven't used the propane ones, but I've seen a lot of people like them. But that's something I'm going to try. But this is definitely, I've used and really like it for certain situations. Definitely worth the money. So anyway, that kind of wraps up the things I kind of wanted to share with, I think are definitely worth having. Some of them are, I don't think this was terribly expensive, but then you get up to probably the most expensive was probably the fridge, and then that's probably around $1,000. Chainsaw, they're not terrible, but they're a few $100s. So, but anyway, these things all make my life better when I'm camping and safer with the Garmin Mini InReach. So anyway, if you got anything out of this, hit that subscribe button. It'll help the channel out. I'm trying to grow it a little bit, and if you have any comments or any things that work great for you that you think worth worth having, put them in the comments. I'd like to hear about them. But anyway, yeah, we're gonna have more adventures coming and some more stuff like this. A lot of adventures coming, more camping trips and things like that. Probably some rock crawling, different things. So yeah, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one.